As you sit here today, looking at my face, I bet you're wondering what it is that I'm about to say. What I'm about to say is, hi, and welcome back. It's time for another brand new episode of Eddie G's Comic Culture. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all. What's going on? What's up? What's up, mi gente? Que lo que was good. Welcome, 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 as we are here yet again today. I told y'all before I was gonna make an episode like this, and here it is right about now. The 420 episode of Eddie G's Comic Culture. That's right. I've been dabbing with this idea for quite some time, y'all. So I wanted to let y'all know that this is a special episode for y'all. First and foremost, thank you for stopping by. If this is your first time actually showing up to the show, welcome. This is my show. I discuss basically all things pop culture related. So it usually circulates around comic books and comic book movies, but it definitely reaches beyond that. And I wanted to let y'all know that this is a window into my world, into my life. So as we discuss my interests, I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in. Just to kick things off, first and foremost, the show is still sponsored by the great folks over at, you already know, Black Apparel. So make sure you stop by at that website at www.blackapparelblk.com to get shirts exactly like this. This baby right here, this bad boy, you see this right here. BLK is the name, baby. That's right. All this type of merchandise and more on the website, so make sure you guys stop over and give them a check it out. Special shout out to Kevin, my brother out in Jersey, for contributing as much as he can to the show as well. As well for this, as this is his work, his livelihood. So make sure y'all check him out. So make sure you please stop by at the website. Let me give a shout out to my YouTube and Instagram family, of course. First off, Wins Collectibles. Make sure you stop by his channel. My man's got some awesome. My man Winsy, he's got some awesome unboxings for his statues and figures, as well as comics as well. Who else? Let's see, Channel 3 Productions, my boy Pablo. Instagram, we're also going to be working on something soon ourselves, pretty much. So as soon as we get the details ironed out, I'll definitely keep you guys posted on the up and up. And Blu-ray Dan and Nerdy Blurb TV. Nerdy Blurb TV, make sure, guys, also tomorrow, April 21st, we're going to be, my segment that I did for the, I did a segment for them on for Nerdy Blurb, and it's going to be airing tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Discussing the road of the MCU to Avengers Endgame, and my experience as a fan throughout those years. So make sure you guys check that out, and definitely let's just get this shit on the road already, guys. Let's get it popping. So first and foremost, happy 420, happy Easter. So I'm loving this shirt, by the way, guys. So if you guys definitely, once again, if you like what you see here, this jam right here, make sure you go to the website at www.blackapparelblk.com. So I've been actually toying the history about this. I was actually toying around with this episode idea since about last year, to be quite honest, since last year's 420. But because of the certain situations that were going on at the time, I didn't really get the opportunity to really get around and work to it. But yeah, this was always a baby making kind of deal for me, and I want to basically discuss a lot of the stuff. We can discuss 420 and all that stuff. We could go into I could go into the history and all that shit about how it started originally, about how it being the legalization for Seattle, so on and so forth. And there's actually more to that history for 420 beyond that. But I'm not gonna get into that at this point. I wanted to make this special episode regarding some of the favorite things. So some of my favorite figures in entertainment, as well as films, that has really revolved around marijuana culture. And so with that being said, well, let me start off with the Cheech and the Chongs. They've been around. The Cheech and Chongs. If you want to talk about stoner flicks, Cheech and Chongs were actually like the first ones. I believe it was Up in Smoke, and the other one, I forgot the name of it right about now. I can't think of it. But yeah, there was a few movies that they had in the early '80s, late '70s, early '80s, and that was really like the door opening for I guess you could say pot culture into the game at that time. But it wasn't really too accepted widespread, in the mainstream, so to speak, because around that time there was a lot of the big war on drugs things was happening during the 80s. Um, the presidential administration and so on and so forth. They really focused their attentions on that at that time, and unfortunately, marijuana got lumped into a lot of the stuff that's been that was really that was really, I guess you could say, hitting the urban community, hitting the inner cities really. And so with that being said, it was like any kind of entertainment, like pop culture entertainment surrounding marijuana, anything of that nature, but like weed in itself, it was still pretty taboo. It was more open as the '90s, as the '90s came along, and we had other people coming in, like we had a couple of we had because we did have a couple of more figures, I guess you could say. Um, shit. Well, in the hood, we had basically Redman and Method Man. So a lot of that was basically, that was one of the, they're one of the, I guess you could, those are, I would say those are one of the main two, one of the major fixtures in the '90s. Um, Regarding that as well, and then we have Cypress Hill on the flip side also, who was also another hip hop, big ups to Cypress Hill. They have there was also they had a lot of classic shit back in the days, but their work was also heavily revolving around Bud. And then in the movies, we didn't really have much. We started getting Jay and Silent Bob though, which was another. We started getting Jay and Silent Bob, and it was more towards the late '90s that we started getting a lot more of the warmer reception towards it, because a lot of people was just, everybody was still everybody was still bar, you know what I'm saying, people were still smoking weed. It was obvious everyone was still smoking bud or whatever the case may be, and that was that. But as I said before, as there was still, like, as certain governmental organizations were in place at the time, um, it got lumped in with the rest of the other, in the mean and nasty world of narcotics, I guess you could say. Not me. Well, yeah, whatever. That's a whole nother conversation I don't want to get into right about now. But because of that, like, pot was really, like, not too really out in the open like that back in the days. So it really took time for it to progress in the way that we have it. And to be honest with you, thinking about it, it's just like seeing what we have now. Like, I want to give big ups to everyone that's really, like, really paved the way for it. And I know we had Willie Nelson for a hot minute, making, and I know we had Willie Nelson for a hot minute. So let me not just the name drop the man, because I don't want nobody thinking I was like, oh, what about Willie Nelson? Nah, I'm not gonna disrespect Willie. I know exactly what he's done for the culture as well. But as I said before, in the mainstream media, as far as that was concerned, in the past 30 years, it's gotten, I think it's been pretty surprising how accepted it is, coming from where it's come from. And you know with that being said, favorite stoner flicks, and it doesn't, and what was crazy about when I was thinking about the favorite stoner flicks, I was debating. I was like, what actually makes a stoner flick besides the fact that I guess you could kind of go either way with the argument, like the same way as, like, whether you want to say Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not, which a lot of people say that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but whatever. So certain movies that I found to be in that same category, in the same vein as stoner flicks, such as, and it's usually with, like, buddy flicks, buddy comedies, and a lot of the times. So even though they didn't deal with, actually the actual bud, but no, it was just like, it was, there was a lot of heavy influence. I guess you could say it was very influential, you could say. And a lot of it, like, for examples, you could see a lot of it in I guess you, like, Beavis and Butthead, and guys like, then you had like Wayne's World, and between Beavis and Butthead, Wayne's World, and I was actually debating this duo as well, Chris Farley and David Spade. Even though they didn't, their success was their comedic duo success wasn't really long lived at all. It was very short lived. It was only between two films, honestly. But they made history together, and the slapstick comedy that they really were about really kind of, it really well, kind of like, it was one of those stoner flicks where you could definitely, like, you could burn one to the face and laugh your ass off at it. So it was definitely one of those, like, and in that vein, I'm looking at it as that when I discuss like out of stoner flicks, like, you know what I'm saying. When I discuss stoner flicks in general, like outside stoner flicks, like, I guess you could. I still haven't gotten the names as to what I could call them yet. So don't heart me right about now. But um, yeah, man, like those are a lot of that stuff is a lot of those movies were really, I guess you could say they were very heavily influenced from marijuana culture, and even though they didn't revolve or even have even when they didn't revolve or have any of that other substance in the movie at all, it's still like it still had that influence in it that you could tell you could definitely tell. So like I said, throughout the time, like from what it's developed up until now, the acceptance of it up until now is really astonishing. Because if you look back, and I'm actually gonna do an episode for, I've got something, I got an entire episode I got cooking up on this. If you think back to the '80s, if you really think back to the '80s, and you see those, they got them all on YouTube, by the way. If you guys are looking for them, there's videos all over the internet. But a lot of them are the partnership, the DARE programs, the paid partnership for it was the paid partnership against drugs program, whatever nonsense. Like there was a lot of fear mongering in those commercials back in those days, and it was really crazy. Like a lot of them really, some of them worked, some of them worked for some people, but the majority of the outcome was just it didn't. It obviously didn't work at all. But if you was to see the footage of these commercials, you would think that it's just like, yo, if you do that, like they acted like you were murdering, like you were causing genocide or some shit. But it was really, it was something else. Like it was a crazy time to see all of that. It was really a crazy time to see all of that. So to see that come from that into what it is today, as we're getting marijuana legal, decriminalized almost all over the, like we're getting closer and closer to national decriminalization. Like it's happening whether we like it or not. But it is, we're itching closer and closer to it. So it's just like, damn, the overwhelming feeling of like, holy shit. I still haven't even been to Seattle. I haven't been to any states where they've been legalized, recreationally as of yet. I do plan on going because I know that there's this, they've had, like, I've seen quite a few things about, the well, first of all, I've heard, how great it's done, for the states financially. Let's be real about it. But like, I think the environment's pretty much changed in a sense where, I don't know, man. I really want to see what my intake is. I just want to see what the environment is like in a recreation where marijuana is decriminalized recreationally, and how the people are out there. And and Seattle to me was always one of my places where I wanted to go to check it out. But so just so it happens to, just so Seattle was always on my bucket list. Was one of the cities I wanted to visit. So the fact that this happened is like a happy accident. Let's just be real about it. But yes, as time went on, one of my main stoner flicks. We're gonna talk about as I discuss the movies. One of the main movies that really opened me up into it is Half Baked. Now, if y'all know that I've played, I've pledged to Dave Chappelle literally ever since I Half Baked really opened my. Half Baked was my first step into, was my introduction to Dave Chappelle. It really was. I saw him beforehand when he did the Robin Hood Men in Tights movie, but Half Baked was my real true introduction to him. And obviously it was a very low budget comedy film, very '90s. You'll see it. You could definitely. That was just kind of what sucks. Honestly, which is one of the main things that I have to say that really pisses me off right now as I get older. As I'm older and I look back at a lot of these movies and a lot of these TV shows, I start realizing I'm starting to notice a lot more where that these shows and movies were actual products of their time, by like it's and it kind of and it's kind of shitty for me because it takes away from the enjoyment, considering. But I guess like I said, these were different times. Those were different times. It was it was a different time then. So Half Baked was my first introduction to Dave Chappelle, and I was hooked on it from then, from there on in. I couldn't believe his comedic his I thought he was a comedic genius. I honestly thought he was a comedic genius. And the funny thing is that that movie has all a lot. It's funny about a lot of these movies that have some crazy behind the scenes stories, movies and shows. Let's be real about it. If you go check online, that was one of the. God bless the internet for that, because yeah, for real, I would not know half of this shit, but a lot of it. But Half Baked was had a few rewrites. It wasn't really it wasn't the movie that obviously obviously the movie that was released was not the movie that Chappelle had in mind. Apparently, I'm not too sure. I read a few. There was a few changes to the ending, and originally I like this was a while ago, so I can't remember exactly. But there were the ending for the film was completely, it was intended to be something totally different, and but the finished result, I guess it changed. I guess editing, and it must have, and editing and reshoots must have definitely, like, had the studio on edge. And it was still it was still a first and it was, I guess you could say, it was a first movie in its of its kind to be like out there about pot culture being marijuana culture being out there in the mainstream like that. And but it was hilarious. It's a fucking hilarious movie. Jim Brewer's in it. Guillermo Diaz, who's hilarious as Scarface, and God, the other guy that who played, I forgot that he was another actor. He was big in the '90s too, in the mid to late '90s. He had a little career. I forgot this actor's name, man. But the one who played Fish, who got arrested in the movie, yes, that one. He was they were great. This was like I said, this movie stamped for me Chappelle his career. Like, I thought this guy was a total fucking genius. Between that and him playing the character change with Sir Smoke a lot, and oh man, like, so it really like opened the world for me to Dave Chappelle. So then not even 2 years after, about a year and a half after that, he had his stand up special, Killing Me Softly, which was another cult classic, very underrated. I guess it must be, well, it's known now considering his success, of course. But yeah, that was really one of the doors that really opened me up into pot marijuana culture. And then you have How High, which was honestly, that movie was only good for it. The only part, the movie was good when you were wrecked. Honestly speaking, like if you were smacked, the movie was hilarious. If you weren't, if you were sober, ugh, it was a bit dreadful. I'm not even gonna front. And I got nothing but I love Redman and Method Man. You know what I'm saying? Those were those two guys were one of the soundtracks of my child. They had the soundtrack of my teenage years. They helped compose that. So, but that movie was just absolutely outright atrocious. I mean, it had its moments. Like, it had like there's moments that are where it's just. It's one of those so bad that it's good movies. It's like one of those '60s B movies that suck so hard, but that they're still incredibly great, and that's what How High is. In a nutshell, it'll have it'll have sporadic moments of certain hilarities throughout. It's not often like that. It's not a genius believe me, it's not a genius comedic flick. It really is a stoner stoner flick, but it circulates a lot of the fucking. It really regurgitates a lot of the toilet humor, if I could say so myself. So with that being said, I was really hoping that they were gonna do it. Like, there was rumors about it for years on end that they did do a How High too, but unfortunately it wasn't with Red and Meth. And at this point, there was no way it was gonna happen with those two either. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been cool if they would have showed him, like, maybe Grandfather of the Next Generation or God knows what the fuck. But I guess they didn't want to go that route, so whatever. But and another one that happened was okay. Marijuana culture was another. I'll give you one of the Simpsons episode. There was a Simpsons episode where Homer ends up getting his eyes completely fucked up by some crows. I don't know how, but I don't remember how. But that one was another one that was a major stamp in the movement as well. Um, it really like it was that's how I knew that like that's how I knew that marijuana culture finally made it mainstream. Like that episode in itself, like literally that episode was just first of all, it surprised the shit out of me. Like I didn't know that it was gonna go. Like I never expected the Simpsons to do that. So that was way out of left field. So the fact that they had an episode, that they generated a storyline just like that, and I was like, Jesus Christ, how are they gonna pay? This is probably never gonna be one of those few played episodes. But the thing is, you never really see Homer taking a pull from the blunt. You know what I'm saying? Like you just see him lighting it up, and he's about to, and then it doesn't, and then it pans off. The camera, you know what I'm saying? Like they never showed him actually pulling from the joint, but it was still a landmark episode because it literally whole like I don't think nobody saw that shit coming with that, like Homer getting high, Homer's getting stoned, smoking weed and shit, yeah, and the fucking and Bart and Lisa are making making smart ass making wisecracks that the upstairs of their house smells like the art teacher's lounge. So that was an epic landmark episode for The Simpsons. That's when I really realized I was like, yo, marijuana culture is out there, bro. Like it's happening. It's catching a wave. And then of course, finally, when when you had stars like Snoop Dogg and who have embraced the culture, and then it started showing up with Willie Nelson and God knows what, and then finally Pineapple Express. It really like also it was just the Pineapple Express was the final Hollywood nail in the coffin for marijuana culture. It was out there. So the fact that it's just the wide received the way it is now, and it's just it's a dope holiday to be clear. To be whether you're down with it or not. I think it's actually I think it's actually something to actually look forward to have for fuck it with everything that's going on in the world today too. And but it's really a hell of a trip when you look at the timeline of it, and especially from my point of view, especially with coming up from such a sheltered environment back in the days, but seeing it now, it really does put a smile on the face. It really does, because if we only knew back then, if we only knew back then, if this was 1986 or 87. And you were talking again, you would have a conversation about pot being legalized. Man, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was happening then, but it was more than likely less believable. But if they were to see it now, those who aren't here, total mind trip. So with that being said, guys, I want to thank you guys for joining and tuning in with me on this day. Once again, happy 420. Have a happy Easter. And as we inch closer and closer to Endgame, I'll be keeping you guys posted with some updates and statuses. I'll try to have a review up for as soon as possible when I'm done seeing the movie. But considering that the film's going to be 3 hours long, guys, I don't know. That's going to be a hell of a trip. And plus, I know I got a lot of shit to process to give you guys a great review. But I will be aiming to make it happen. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, or anything you disagree with or agree with, you already know, hit the comment section. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification button so when when I'm dropping some new heat, you guys are on it like an alcoholic. And peace and blessings to everyone in the whole world, man. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I'll see y'all around. Take care.